Alrighty, folks, welcome to our second session of today, this lovely Friday afternoon. Oh, morning, sorry. um, I want to welcome the amazing Leslie Sharp, who will be hosting this workshop titled the Transition Plan Workshop for Can't Missteps in Moving from Employee to Entrepreneur. And let me tell you a little bit about Leslie because she's an amazing individual. She has over 15 years of blending creative design and revenue generating strategies to help strengthen brands and propel businesses forwards. She is an entrepreneurship enthusiast who loves sharing how she turned her side hustle into a six-figure full-time business utilizing her proprietary P.L.A.N method. Leslie now teaches P.L.A.N method to aspiring entrepreneurs in engaging workshops and keynotes. She hosts a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and Marketing with a minor in English Language and Literature from Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, where she graduated as a Janetta Haley Scholar, Dean's List Scholar, and Enterprise Corporation awardee. She is from Chicago, who now calls St. Louis area home. She enjoys hosting events, all kinds of trivia games, and traveling with her husband, Jared. Awesome. Let's welcome Leslie to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I am so glad to be with you all this morning. Thank you so much for being here. Before we get too far underway, can we give the STL Startup Week team a round of applause? This has been an amazing week of events. They have been rocking and rolling all week. Today is the final day. They've done multiple events per day since Monday. Multiple venues, so if anybody is in event planning, you know what a huge undertaking that is. So we're really excited to be here today and thank the STL Startup Week team. As Ben said, I am originally from Chicago. I came here to attend SIUE when I was in college. I had every intention of going back to Chicago after graduation, but ultimately I got great opportunities here in St. Louis. And so as I began to build my career in corporate and nonprofit marketing, I also started side hustling and freelancing. And I did that for 10 years alongside working a full-time job. And it wasn't until 2020, through a lot of tears and fear, that I ended up launching my own marketing agency. And it was actually in November of 2020. So this is not just a workshop, but this is like my business anniversary party. So I'm thankful that you all are here celebrating 4 years of full-time entrepreneurship with me. But aside from the professional stuff, most importantly, I'm Jared's wife, and couldn't be that without first being a daughter, a sister, and a friend. So I'm just really grateful for the life that I get to live. If you love any of these things down here, from sneakers to Christmas movies to The Bear, does anybody watch The Bear? Yes, let's talk about that afterwards. But those are just some of the things that I love. So before we go too deep, I want to lay a little bit of groundwork first. So you have a worksheet that in the upper left-hand corner, you can scan a QR code and it'll give you access to go a little bit more in depth with some of the materials that we're going to talk about today, because each of these topics that we're going to cover in the P.L.A.N method could be their own multi-hour, multi-day session. So in our 60 minutes, we're not going to be able to explore the full depth of these topics, but my job is to give you enough to chew on so that you can take it back and add it to your own business context. Does that make sense? So employee to entrepreneur is a mindset, and what I really want you to begin to do is think like an owner. This doesn't mean that by attending this workshop, I want you to go put in a resignation letter if you're still thinking about, what it looks like to transition, but what this does mean is I want you to start thinking like an owner. So I want you to take a trip with me back to the 90s. Now we have middle school students here today learning about entrepreneurship, so Ms. Hilson will tell you all about the 90s on your way back to school. But for the rest of us who were there, imagine a time where the best way to get a hold of someone was to call them at home. And if you weren't home, you simply missed the call. Now, if you're lucky, somebody was there to take a message for you. So imagine a teenage boy with a growing social life. Knowing who called him was gold. It could be his crush. It could be somebody wanting to challenge his dominance on the basketball court. He needed that call list. So he has a little sister. She decides, I'm going to take the role of message taker for the family. But quickly, she realizes how important that message list was to her brother. So she has a phenomenal idea. The next time he comes home from basketball practice, he said, hey, who called? She said, sure, I'll tell you. I have the list right here. for $1. He was super taken aback, but do you know what he did? He went in his room and he got that dollar because he needed that information. So pretty smart on her part, don't you think? I think so. Well, I'm that little sister, and my big brother was my first customer, and message taking was my first business. But what I didn't know at that time that I know now is that the heart of a business is really providing a solution. It's meeting a need, it's filling a gap, it's being an answer to a problem. And all of you all who have entrepreneurship in your heart, you're thinking through what that looks like, you are the answer to somebody's problem. You have a solution that somebody needs. There's a gap that you were created to fill. And so on the first square of your worksheet, it asks, what is that solution that I'm offering? What problem is my business solving? And I want you to think through that as you're thinking about what entrepreneurship looks like for you. So let's lay a little more groundwork as we think about entrepreneurship. Success can be exactly what you would like it to be. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's business. If you love your job, you like working your job, but maybe you want to do something on the side, and you launch that, that's success for you. You can take risks and still be strategic. A lot of times we think that taking a blind leap of faith means I just have to kind of go for it, I'm winging it. You can absolutely make a calculated risk and it still counts. And also, we're all living this life for the first time. Give yourself some grace as we figure it out. So with that, let's get into the first topic of our session. Have you ever been in a large mall or maybe like an amusement park and you see the directory and there's a map and you have a pin that says you are here? Has anybody ever seen that? So that's your position. Once you understand what your position is, you can then say, I'm gonna go left or right, depending on the destination that I'm trying to reach. Your business is the exact same way. Once you understand your positioning, you can then make calculated decisions about where you wanna go next. Now, there are a lot of things included in positioning. We're only gonna talk about a couple, but I do want to point out that Holly did a whole talk, can you raise your hand for us, last startup week on positioning, so you can find that on YouTube, but we're just going to go through a few of those elements today. So when you understand your position, it helps you differentiate your business from your customers. It helps you stay top of mind with your customers. It also helps you foster relationships and build trust. And then finally, it helps you justify your pricing. So we're going to look at a real world positioning example. And I want you guys to talk back to me. So we have a leather handbag here. Drummed leather, that means it has like that textured leather, the finest quality, limited edition, made in France. You can see some of the other descriptions there. Would anybody pay $100 for a nice quality leather handbag? Seeing a few hands. Would anybody go up to like $800? A few people, me and my friend back there, yes, we like nice things. I feel like so only a few people raised their hands, so we kind of capping out around the $800 mark, right? So if I told you this bag costs $9K, would anybody, I'm seeing some eyes wide. Okay, now if I tell you that it is an Hermes handbag, does that change anybody's perception of paying $9K for it? If you had it, would you buy it? Okay, we got a few luxury lovers in the house. So we have a few people who might fit in the Hermes target market. They have done a great job of nailing down exactly who their target market is. And we know they've done a great job by finding who's gonna click add to cart, because they're making a lot of money. Now this is in euros, but translated to USD, it's about $14 billion, right? So that's how we know they have done a phenomenal job of finding the people that are more than willing to pay $9,000. And this is what they consider a mid-range handbag. They have handbags that go up to the six-figure range. So what does that mean for you as a small business owner? Nailing down your target market. That's how you find who's willing to buy your products and services, by speaking directly to them. So here's how I want you to think about that. Have you ever been or heard of the best practices when you're in an emergency situation that you should not yell out to the crowd, somebody, anybody, call 911. What you actually want to do is find somebody, look them in the eye and say, you in the green shirt and the hat, call 911. that creates some tension for them. You're speaking directly to them, and that inspires them to take action. If you put it out generally, people kind of go into this group think, and they think somebody else is going to call, right? So your target market works the same way. When you can nail it down, you're speaking directly to a particular customer, and they're inspired to take action. Does that make sense? So a few of the ways we want to look at that is with these categories. So on your worksheet, you can write down some of the different things that might make up your target market. Demographics, something we're pretty much all familiar with. That's your basics. Men, women, age, maybe income level. Psychographics is something a little different, and that's actually what they value. So if we go back to the Hermes example, we see that their customer appreciates luxury and they value heritage. What they mean by heritage is that brand story. So if you go on the website, for those of us that said we would buy the $9,000 bag, you will see they talk about the region in Africa where the leather comes from. They talk about the design inspiration of the silhouette. That's heritage. And so they're able to use that language and that story to draw in their customer because they know that's what they value. So behavioral traits, geographics, and those needs and those pain points, again, you want to go back to what problem am I solving? And then from there, you can actually even work backwards. John Deere, for example, they make tractors for farmers. Looking at geographics, it doesn't necessarily make sense for them to advertise in Manhattan, right? Most people who live in Manhattan also don't have farms. So that's why geographics is important. Where are you communicating to that particular audience? And then when we look at behavioral traits, brand loyalty, is my customer somebody that likes to keep with the same brand, or they just always value hunting, looking for the best price? So these are examples of some of the things that you want to think through when you're looking through your target market. So another way to really connect with your customer is to build a brand archetype. And so an archetype is a persona of your brand. Most people are familiar with creating their customer avatar, but what is your business avatar? What personality is your business taking on? So on that bottom of your worksheet, there's a couple of questions there. How do I want people to feel when they interact with my brand? That will help you determine your brand archetype. So let's look at Apple. Do we have iPhone users here? A few people reluctantly, but so your brand archetype is going to start in these quadrants. So we have provide structure, connect others, leave a mark, and spiritual journey. And I want to point out that spiritual journey doesn't necessarily mean religion, but it's about like what is your customer value intrinsically and what are they looking to connect with. So let's take Apple for example. So structure. So I'm an Apple user, iPhone, the watch, the iPad. What else do I have, babe? The Air Max, right? All the things that they make. So I'm in that Apple ecosystem. I'm in their structure. And I see that as innovation. They help me get my work done faster. And they are, tend to position themselves as creators. Now, if you ask Android enthusiasts, they say Apple's not creating anything. They're just making what Android has already done better. But to those of us with the naked eye, we see them as creators and as innovators. So your brand wants to take on a persona that helps you reach that target market. So I want to workshop this. So somebody give me a business that maybe you're thinking through, something you've already launched, and you want to kind of explore your brand persona. Any ideas? Yes, James.
I'm a software developer, and I launched a gaming application that helps people learn, earn, and play about cryptocurrencies.
Awesome. And so when you say people, adults, kids, is it targeted at anybody in particular?
It's targeted to adults, anybody who likes to play like word games or something like that, but also people who are already in the cryptocurrency kind of world. So crypto enthusiasts, but also gamers.
Love it. And then is somebody doing this already and you're saying I can make it better, or is this something that you haven't seen before?
I've seen it, but nobody's doing it in the way that I've been doing it.
And
They've done it in a very smaller scale, or like in some kind of chat room or something like that, but I've built it out so it's like everybody, you know what I mean? It's a much more usable application.
Got it. And is it currently a viable product? Are you still testing it?
Yes, I just literally deployed it like last week. So,
oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I have some users, and people have won the game already and that kind of thing. So.
Okay, cool. So I think it kind of fits to me within that creator innovator space because it's still a newer idea. However, you said it's also teaching, right? So it's people that may be familiar with cryptocurrency, but
You don't even have to be familiar. You maybe just like playing word games, and then you kind of learn. If you win the word game, then you kind of have to learn how to create a wallet, and we teach you how to do that, and then you actually earn, real money.
Yep,
So.
I love that. So I actually also hear this sage brand archetype because you're providing knowledge, right? So you're doing it in a fun way, but then you're also taking this on this journey to say, let me teach you a little bit more about something that's kind of elusive. A lot of people are like, cryptocurrency is very, in the clouds and in the weeds for a lot of people. But if you can give them an idea that takes them through a journey of learning, then you're really kind of operating as a sage as well in a creative way. And so you can have a main brand archetype and then a sub brand archetype. And so I want to show you all these actual themes that correspond with each archetype. So when we look at the creator, we see something that's inspirational, daring, provocative. I think for a lot of people, cryptocurrency is still something that's just like, I don't know, is it real? Is it gonna bust? Should I put my money there? Is it worth investing in? So that may be kind of daring to, create something that's actually teaching people how to go about that. And then I think maybe your sub brand is that sage because I'm gonna guide you through how to, invest in crypto, use it, what does it mean, assure you that, this isn't a scam, that you're not gonna lose your money, and that we're gonna give you some knowledge around it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything. You just playing a game. And
Yeah.
if you win, you earn something. So you don't have to put money. You don't have to like invest. You know what I mean? You're just playing a game. And if you win, I tell you how to. You know what I mean? Recover that prize. You recover a wallet essentially, and then you actually own cryptocurrency.
And you own crypto.
But you don't have to have a wallet. You just need an email address, and everybody has an email address.
That's super awesome. Yeah. So I think you're definitely doing something that's new, that's innovative. So you would fall in that creator archetype. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anybody else want to throw a business out there? Yes, ma'am. What's your name? Hi, Misha. What's your business?
So my business is a consulting firm, so to speak. So I am a strategy executor. So I like to work with founders who have big ideas, but they don't know exactly how to either get started or they started and they know that they're not the people to actually do the thing. I'm the person that do the things.
So are you supporting them one-on-one? Or how does the service delivery work for you?
Sure. So it's been a little bit of a mix depending on the client. Some is we walk on the journey together of this is what I want to do, or let's say I already started a business, but I don't know how to get out there. I haven't done my formation papers. I haven't listed out my services, although I'm charging people something, but it's not formalized. So on that side, other folks that I've worked with, it is more so, I started this business, I have great income, but now what? And I want to do something bigger and better with what I have, but I don't know how to keep on going.
Yep.
So on there is more so strategic planning, and if I'm the executor, that's cool, but not always am I the only person that's working with them.
Do you find yourself doing some mindset work with them?
For sure.
And some coaching?
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. So
yes, I believe in you.
Yeah. So I think where you fall a lot is in this service provider as a caregiver. And so I think sometimes we see caregiver and we may think doctor, dentist, but honestly, if you remember that quadrant, you're providing structure, right? So you're giving them strategy. You're saying, hey, they have this, they may have made some sales and they've done some things before, but they're having trouble really formalizing it, honing in on it, understanding next steps. So you're giving them structure while also helping them with some mental clarity, providing some insight, maybe even some guidance and some reassurance for them. And so when we go back and look at these themes, caregiver, caring, warm, reassuring, like literally all the things I'm getting from your personality as you're talking about how you work with these service providers. So I want everybody to understand your brand type is also how you show up as that business owner and what you're able to do for that client. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And yes, Dion. Uh-huh.
Hi everyone, my name is Dion Motley. Hello, my name is Dion Motley. I am a financial coach.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I feel like I'm hitting all four. And I
Okay.
heard you say that you can have a main and have a subtype.
Yes.
But what happens when you're hitting all four? Because I share knowledge, which falls in one quadrant. And then leaving a mark is liberating. When you're paying off debt and you're getting your finances in order, and then with the connection to others, my mission is to foster a safe environment where people can talk about their money struggles, so it hits that sense of belonging, but then also the control, because I'm providing you with the same systems and structures that I use to get out of debt. So
Yep.
what do you do when you're all four?
So I'm going to challenge you that you're not all four. You're going to be maybe kind of like, if you like a personality test, you're like high D, low this. So you're going to be definitely dominant in two areas, definitely one, maybe a little bit lesser on another one. And I don't want to sound insensitive when I say this, but multiple personalities is a disorder for a reason, right? So if you're trying to encompass yourself in all of these, we're going to hit up against that brick wall where we're not speaking to anybody. So you're definitely going to be dominant in a couple of areas. I think just because I know your business a little bit about it, I think your top one is definitely sage. Is that knowledgeable? So again, remember, like that spiritual journey part is not necessarily religion, but we know money is deeply personal, right? People are like, sometimes they're even struggling to hire a financial coach because there's a lot of shame and guilt attached to money. And so I think that's your main quadrant. And that sage, again, is that person who is going to be knowledgeable. You're extremely knowledgeable about finances. You want to assure them that, hey, we can get out of this debt. You're not the first person to be in debt. We can conquer this. And then you're guiding them on how to do that. So I think that's your top one. I think maybe for a sub, I see where you are at about the liberation, but that outlaw is more of like, I'm going against the grain. I'm, trying to create something that is, separate from like the rest of society. That's why they kind of have like Harley Davidson, that, motorcycle gang. So I think the liberation really just ties back into that spiritual aspect of it for you. And then maybe your sub is actually more of like that caregiver service, because I know when it comes to money, you're not just working on people's budget, but again, you're working on mindset similar to her. So that's what I think your two would be. So again, on that QR code, if you would like to go deeper on this, that's one of the links that you'll get in that. So this was great. Thank you all for sharing, and I really hope that you all kind of understand a little bit more about archetypes. So the last piece I want to talk about when it comes to positioning is my top secret pricing formula. I really go in depth with this with my clients, where we're just going to kind of do a high level overview today. Can everybody here keep a secret? All right, this is going to be on YouTube, but but in the meantime, don't tell anybody. But I love an acronym. So time is money. We've all heard that phrase, right? Time is money. So for me, T stands for transformation. A transformation is the value that your product or service offers beyond just the surface. So let's say you're a barber. Men, after you get your hair cut, how do you feel?
$1 million.
See, at the same time, right? Like $1 million. There's a value attached to that transformation. It's not just the haircut, it's the confidence that comes with it. It's the swag that comes with it, right? You can add a value to that as a provider. The I is for implementation. It costs something for you to deliver a product or a service. There is a cost attached. So if you are a caterer, you might say, oh, we made $5,000 this month. That's fantastic. But what if the food, the spices, the supplies cost $4,950? You didn't make $5,000, you made $50, right? So you want to make sure that you're incorporating your implementation cost into your pricing structure. M is for market. You want to understand the framework around your industry. So are you middle of the road with your pricing? Are you going to be a luxury leader, maybe value-based pricing? It doesn't really matter what you decide, but you want to understand the context of the market that you're in for your industry. And then finally, expectation. This may be where some customer education needs to come in. So I actually used to be a wedding planner, and a lot of times, first-time couples are shocked at how much it actually costs to have the wedding that's in their heads or on Pinterest. And so this is where you have to kind of taper their expectations so they don't think $800 can get me what really costs $1,000, because what will happen is you as a business owner, if you don't set that expectation, you will begin to then lowball yourself and say, well, the customer thinks it should be this, so I'm going to charge this. Don't be afraid to kind of give them a different expectation of what that really costs. When you consider those factors, that's how you begin to start thinking like an owner and pricing for profitability. Does that make sense? Any questions on the pricing formula? So let's review positioning really quickly. These are the 3 things that are on your worksheet, the tips 1 through 3 that I really want you to begin thinking through. But also, I didn't put tip 4 on here because I want you to write it somewhere on that sheet in your own handwriting. Circle it because this is very important. Cash follows clarity. Can we say that together? 1, 2, 3. Cash follows clarity. I need you all to understand that being clear about your market, about your service, about your brand archetype is the best way to get cash flow in your pocket. People cannot patronize you if your messaging is all over the place. And even simple things require clarity. There have been a lot of times where I wanted to support a business. You go to maybe a website, they say, here's the link, and then there's no way to pay them, right? Or have you ever been, trying to visit a restaurant or something, and the hours say one thing on Google, but you get there and they're closed and it's another thing on the door? That's not clear. People cannot pay you if you're not clear. At the end of the day, we're in business to make money. I know we all want to change the world and we have all these good things that we want to do, but you can't change the world without money. So at the end of the day, cash follows clarity, and I really need you all to understand how to get clear on your positioning and just on basic things like how to get paid. Does that make sense? Can we say it again? Cash follows clarity. Awesome. So once you're clear, it helps you with your leveraging, which is the L&R method. So leveraging is all about using the skills and resources you already have to build a foundation for sales success. So every experience that you have had is not wasted. Everything from jobs to people you've met in your past is part of your leveraging. And you're going to leverage things like your skills and your network. So I really want you to understand, again, as we said in the beginning, that you are equipped to launch a business. You have everything you need already. There's not too much that you probably already don't have, and we're going to figure out how we identify that with a skills map. But first, we're going to look at what it looks like to go through our professional and personal skills. So you're going to take inventory of the things and experiences that you have already had. So maybe you are an accountant and you want to start your accounting business. Well, that's already makes sense, right? Most people understand that that's direct leverage. That's a direct skill set that you can take into your entrepreneurship venture. Now, maybe you have an indirect skill set. And I'm actually going to pull from one of my clients who's here today. This is Thomas in the front. Everybody, Thomas, can you raise your hand? So Thomas is a serial entrepreneur, plethora of businesses from Amazon Logistics, wine bar, furniture company, detail shop. I feel like I'm missing about 5, FedEx, event space, home health, right. And I've had the pleasure of working with Thomas on a number of these businesses. But a few short years ago, Thomas was a middle school guidance counselor. So can you tell us how were you able to leverage that skill set into entrepreneurship? They're going to give you a mic.
Being a counselor gave me people skills and let me get into your brain to understand a lot of people from different angles, how you think, what upsets people, what do people look for in an employer. So in the school realm, you hear teachers every day complain about their leaders, okay, or praise their leaders based upon it. So I had to go on my own path to figure out how I wanted to approach entrepreneurship and to understand that I'm going to employ a lot of people someday. And that in itself helped me to just make sure I treated people right. But I had to follow these first steps first to make sure I'm making money.
Amen, because
Yeah.
cash follows clear.
I was clear.
But you were able to leverage your people skills. So now across all of your businesses, are we at like 150 employees?
Somewhere in there.
Right, and so you wouldn't think automatically, oh, and the very first, the bigger business was the Amazon logistics company, right?
Yes.
The bigger one. And so you wouldn't think middle school guidance counselor running this massive logistics company. When I say Amazon logistics, so when you get your Amazon packages, that could be one of Thomas's drivers that's dropping that off. So initially, you want to think about how are my skills, even indirect ones, viable for what I'm doing today. So as he said, it was the people skills. It was the understanding how to be a good manager because he was a good counselor. So think through your skills, and there's a section on your worksheet for skills mapping and your skills gaps. So your map are the things that are indirect, that you can apply to your business. And then your skills gap, those are where you see opportunities for improvement. So one area you might need some coaching in, right? So all business owners need to have an idea about finance and budgeting. That's not something you want to completely outsource without having some understanding. So if you're not great in that area, you may want to say, here's where I need some coaching. But other things you may be able to completely outsource. I'm not the IT girly. My husband, that's his lane. I outsource all of that to him, right? So I can know where my gaps are, and that way you're ready to ask for help when you need it. A lot of times as business owners, we're wearing a lot of hats, and when people say, how can I help you? What do you need? We don't know because we haven't identified where our gaps are. So make sure you understand that. So when people say, I can help you, you're ready to receive the help. Does that make sense? You also want to leverage your network. I really want you to leave no stone unturned when you're thinking about getting that first customer. Now, I met somebody at Startup Week on Tuesday, and that's Miss Vanita. She's in the back. And we talked about leveraging in a roundabout way. She is from St. Louis, lived on the East Coast. She's back now launching her business. And you said you already had your first customer by just kind of going through your network back here in St. Louis. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got your first customer?
Well, hello, can you hear me?
There we go.
One of the things that I did was call all my friends, my close girlfriends, and talk to them about what they were doing. And one of my girlfriends is set up to do work with the government, so she's a consultant. And what she did was bring me in on her project. So before I even got home, before I even set the company up good, I had a client. So yeah, making those phone calls, maybe having a little mixer with, your friends that are movers and shakers, using your social media network, talking to Leslie.
Absolutely, but I think what you did was so great. The company wasn't fully set up yet. You weren't even back in St. Louis yet, but let people know what I'm doing. Sometimes we have a post and hope strategy with our business. We post it on social media and we hope somebody finds us. We hope somebody buys. That's not gonna work. I really want you to leverage your network. Think through, even if you think this is somebody that's not interested in it, Let them know what you're doing. Send emails, send some direct messages, send people LinkedIn messages. Hey, haven't talked to you in a while, hope you're well, but want to let you know what I'm doing, seeing if this is something you might be interested in, or if you know somebody who could be interested in it as well. And I want to show you a great real world example of leveraging. Does anybody know Keisha Mabry Haymore? She's actually like a big part of Startup Week. Some events were at Heydays. She's a transplant like me. We actually connected at our church. But when she was launching Heydays, she did a phenomenal job of leveraging her audience. She brought them in on the brand journey before the business was even ready. She said, hey, help me pick out the logo. Help me pick the colors. And when it was all done, she said, hey, friends, we have a brand, because she leveraged her audience and brought them in on that journey. So you already had a connection with Heydays before the doors were even open. You knew kind of what it was going to be like, what it was going to feel like. She kind of nailed down that brand archetype. She said, I want Heydays to feel like a sneaker, right? So she was kind of giving you, before the doors even opened, an idea of what you can experience. And that's a great example of how to leverage, and it overlaps with our next point, which is announcing. So when you're announcing your venture, you want to craft a compelling message. Now, how are you going to do that? Everything goes back to that positioning. So once you nail down that brand archetype, that's going to help you decide, what does my messaging sound like? So if we remember when we looked at the key themes within that brand archetype, if we had like a sage, like what I believe Dion's brand is, that assured, that guiding, that knowledgeable, that's the type of language you're going to want to use in your messaging so that it's appealing to the archetype or to your customer. A great way and an easy way to do that is 2024, use AI. You can use ChatGPT and say, my brand archetype is this, my customer is this, give me keywords to include in the messaging that will speak to my customer. So use those tools to your advantage. You're also going to want to choose the right platform for announcing that venture. Now, there's going to be some times where maybe you're going to leverage your audience and you may use Facebook if there's a number of your people in your network there, but your audience may not be there. Or like a better example is, let's say you have a business where you're primarily catering to senior citizens. Snapchat is probably not going to be your primary vehicle for getting that message to them, right? So you don't have to be on every platform. You want to be on the right platform that matters for your business. But if you have friends on Snapchat, you may make a video that say, hey, here's what I'm doing, want you all to know. So there's going to be a difference between using platforms to just connect with your network and let them know what you're doing than using the platforms to actually reach your audience. Do you understand that difference? And then finally, creating that pre-launch buzz. Again, Keisha did a great job of creating a pre-launch buzz by inviting people into her brand story and letting them know all about Heydays before the doors even open. So 3 types of media channels that you need to think about when you're ready to announce your venture. And the first one is owned. So these are the media channels that you control directly, like your website and your email list. The benefit of these are that they're primarily free, maybe outside of the cost of building your website, but you can control the narrative on these channels. Unlimited in frequency. You can wake up in the middle of the night and send an email, make a post, and it's a way for you to directly connect with your audience. This is primarily how I've built my business, is with my email list, my LinkedIn list, and referral, primarily using owned media channel strategies. Earned, that's media coverage that you cannot always just pay for, but it's called earned because you have to pitch the story. It has to be a worthwhile story, and so that might be like TV segments, articles, testimonials. And the advantage to that is that it boosts credibility with new audiences if they are unfamiliar with you. The news reporting it versus you reporting it kind of really just gives your audience that idea that, you know what, this is a viable source, this is a credible business, and that I also believe it really positively impacts your stakeholder loyalty. If you support a business or an organization and you see them on the news or you see them in the paper, you get excited that, oh, this is a business I support. I'm a part of their community, and so it really boosts that stakeholder loyalty as well. One of my clients, a board member, is here from Lansdowne Up. Hi, Monique. So I've worked with them in a lot of their PR efforts, getting them on the news, in the newspaper, things like that. They're doing amazing work in East St. Louis. How has earned media impacted the work that Lansdowne Up is doing in terms of letting people know about what's happening in East St. Louis? They're going to bring you a mic.
Thank you. I'm Monique Green, and Leslie's work has had a tremendous impact in terms of exposure. We're now getting investors and corporations that are just interested in what we're doing, and we're also getting donations. And kudos to you, because I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, I have the next Lansdowne project for you.
Well, all right. And then that's great. Thank you so much. And then finally, your paid media. These are your Facebook ads, Google ads, TV and radio spots. These are simply things you can pay for. And what I love about paid media is that once you have that brand archetype and your target market down, you can then drill down that paid media to speak directly to your target market. So if you go in Facebook, set up a Facebook ad, it's going to ask you questions about demographics, location, age range, income level. It can get really granular so that your messaging gets in front of the right audience. So on your worksheet, I ask you what media channels do you think would be the most beneficial for you to focus on first for your business? So those are some things that I want you to think through as you're thinking about how you're going to announce your venture. So, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I have a hot take on social media and how people announce their business. And that is, do not ask everyone on your friends list to like your business page. Here's why. Organically, unless you do a paid post or a paid ad, but a lot of business owners, we spend a lot of time adding content to our Facebook pages, to our Instagrams. But only about 2% on a good day of people in your feed are going to see that post if it's not a paid ad, right? So the people who you want to see it are people that are most likely to take action. If I open a daycare where I live in Collinsville, Illinois, and I have a lovely aunt in Houston, Texas, and she's, always interacting with my posts and stuff, that might be great for my confidence, but she's not sending her kids to my daycare. She's not here. So this may be where I, message her, hey, auntie, if you know anybody in St. Louis, can you let them know about my page? But there's a feature that allows you to just choose everybody to like. It's easy, but I really want you all thinking about strategy over ease. Does that make sense? The people that like your page and are interacting with your content need to be people that eventually are going to pay you, that you can move through a funnel, and not people that are just, it's great if our friends like it, but if they're not your actual customer, let's not focus on just getting a bunch of likes for the sake of it. Let's focus on getting the right people to our page by correctly identifying our target market and correctly representing our brand archetype. Does that make sense? Did I hurt anybody's feelings? Can we still be friends? Okay. So let's look at the cost of advertising. When you think of fast food, what's the first brand that comes to mind? Of course, I knew you were going to say that. So if we all know that McDonald's is top of mind when we think of fast food, why do we think they continue to spend so much money on advertising? Why would that be? If we all already know who they are, why are they still spending money on advertising and that much of it? Ryan? Say that again? They want to stay top of mind. Exactly. So they only spent about 1.3% of their revenue on advertising. And I say that because a lot of people always ask me, well, how much should I be spending on my marketing, on my advertising? What percentage? There is no hard and fast rule for that. I think the better question is, how much are you losing by not doing it? A lot of times, business owners, we're so in the weeds and we kind of get lost on keeping our idea, our venture, and our business top of mind with consumers. But if I asked everybody in here what you have going on right now at work, at home, in life with your kids, we would be here all night. Everybody is busy. You have to stay top of mind with your consumers. You cannot assume that they're going to remember the product or the service that you're offering. And it's not because they're purposely or willfully trying to ignore you. People have real lives. And so, again, because I told you in the beginning, you all are uniquely positioned to offer a solution and an answer to a problem. You want to stay top of mind, and that's simply reminding them, hey, I'm here with your solution. Hey, I'm here with your answer. Don't feel like I'm going to be bugging my customer base. I'm going to be annoying my customer base, because remember, not everybody is going to see everything you put out. So if you put out something Monday at 2, some people are going to see it. You turn around again, post Tuesday at 7 a.m., a totally different group of people may see that messaging. So I want you to always think about, I need to stay top of mind because I'm serving a real group of people that have a real need, and I have an answer for them. Does that make sense? So we are almost at the end, and this is simply how you keep your business magnetic, and that is by nurturing your customers. So ultimately, a business is about building relationships. Again, because you're providing a solution to a problem, you want to stay connected with people. You want to let them know that you appreciate their business, and that's where nurturing comes in. So here are a few different nurturing ideas. Again, you don't want to just pick anything. It has to go back to your target market. What do they value? What is your customer looking for? And then that makes sure that your nurturing is effective. And also, it doesn't always have to be a gift per se, but it could be the experience of when they come into your business. So I'm going to go back to Thomas. He also has a detail shop, if we didn't cover that in the first list. He details cars. He started in his garage, but now it's a full-fledged operation in Collinsville. But when you go into Thomas's detail shop, you have a couple of options. You can wait there for your car, but you're not just sitting there waiting. There's snacks, there's TV, there's Wi-Fi. They can set you up with a little workstation. There's sometimes adult beverages. It just is what it is. But then also, if you don't want to wait, they'll take you back to work, and they'll pick you up and bring you back to your car. That's customer nurturing, right? You're not left on your own. We know detailing, because they do it right, it takes a few hours. So they're giving you some ways to say, hey, let's help you with that time. They're thinking about how do we kind of build that relationship with the customer. You're not just dropping your car off and now you have to kind of figure out what the next few hours look like. They thought of that for you, and that's a great example of nurturing. So when we think through that, here's a real truth about your business and why nurturing is important. Nobody's obligated to spend their hard-earned money with you. A lot of times we see a sense of entitlement with business owners. I see that a lot of people are just like, well, I put all this work into it and nobody purchased. Nobody patronized me. They don't have to. It's up to us as business owners to earn their loyalty and their trust, to recognize, again, there's a solution that we have, there's an answer we're providing, and the more we communicate that with clarity, because cash follows clarity, that gives us the opportunity to really earn the trust and the loyalty of our consumers. So we practice nurturing as an act of humble appreciation for people giving their hard-earned money to our business, for entrusting us to deliver a product or service that we say we're going to deliver. And also, nurture your teams. When you get to a place where you actually have team members on your business, you want to nurture them as well. They are part of your stakeholders. They are a part of your business ecosystem, and you don't want to neglect the people that are working hard for you to help you deliver that solution and that answer to a problem. So I really hope that you're able to see how the elements fit together. So once you understand your positioning, you're better than able to think about how I want to leverage this business, what area or what channels am I going to use to announce it, how I'm going to nurture my customers. When you're announcing your venture, you're thinking about, am I making sure that the announcement is hitting that target market, which goes back to positioning. So you understand how all of these elements fit together to give you a good foundation for success. So we are at a Q&A portion. Anybody have any thoughts on what they've heard today? Need any clarity on anything? You have one up here, Ben.
Yeah, I just want to thank you. This was all very informative, and I appreciate it. I actually attended a workshop yesterday about funding, and I wasn't sure if, like, you have any insight into that as well, because, you know, that's once you kind of develop this plan, it's like, well, I'd like to do all these things, but I don't have the money to do it, right? And so you want to reach out first. And the rewards part are like what I was thinking of doing eventually is like a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and there was like the rewards section, or you're nurturing, which is Kickstarter kind of does the same thing where it's like a rewards-based thing. So you say you can fund my project, but I'll give you rewards based on that, and you'll be kind of like the first people into that.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if you had any insight about that, or if you work with people.
Yeah. So honestly, for most of the things we talked about today, you don't need money, you need time, right? And so that's just I would say the tension of business ownership. We're either gonna have to spend money or you have to spend time. Right. There's just no way about it. So developing that positioning, nailing that down, and getting that message out doesn't necessarily have to cost money. If you can really nail down that customer and use like a owned or earned channel, if you're gonna go all paid media, that's when you need money, right? But like I said, I developed most of my business with owned and earned media. I've never done paid advertising for my particular business. So it's not necessarily that you would need money to get through the first part of your method. Now, leverage, you can, right? You can use leverage maybe to acquire funding. And actually I see a businessman in the back, David Hawkins. And so actually I want to have you speak to leveraging a little bit about how you can leverage your network to get funding. So David is the senior pastor of Living the Word Church, but he's also the president of Metro Hope, which is a community organization. And he's done a phenomenal job of really creating a network in the St. Louis area. So we're talking about funding and how can we leverage our network when maybe we have this big idea, but we don't have a lot of money to get it done.
I would say tell your story. First of all, own your story and what is your burden, and then tell your story to every network you could possibly penetrate. But be targeted at the same time. For me, I'm big with the business community because understanding nonprofit, understanding what it means to be in that space, there's not a lot of dollars with grants, but there's a lot of people who are willing to be angel investors that like your story. So I make it a point to own my story, to tell my story to strategic circles, and to general circles. And you'd be surprised who's listening. So keep telling the story.
Yep, so without a lot of money, I would say that's a great point. You know, why is what you're doing important? Who is it gonna benefit? What's the impact of it? You know, keep putting that story out there, seeing who's interested and who may be willing to fund. But in terms of actually working through the steps, if you can just, hunker down some time, you don't need a ton of money to actually implement what you're trying to do next. Does that make sense? Awesome. Any other questions? Shantae.
Okay, can you talk about how, so say you develop in your business, you go through this, and you're still currently employed, say you have a 9 to 5. 2 parts, like one, how do you know you're in a position where you can kind of transition away from your 9 to 5? And then how do you almost make sure that you have yourself in a space where you don't feel like you need to fall back? Okay, you know what, it's getting too hectic. Maybe it's not working the way I wanted it to work. Let me just run back to a 9 to 5. Like, can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So for one, I would say it's going to be different for each individual. For me, if I go back to almost the beginning where I talked about business truths. Number 2, You can be bold and still be calculated. A lot of times we think like, oh, taking a leap of faith means I have to kind of like jump out into entrepreneurship, because people make that sound like really good on social media. Like, I just quit my job, I packed up, I moved, I left everything. I'm a scaredy cat. I didn't do any of that. I waited until I had enough money and clients to then be able to say, okay, now I feel comfortable stepping away from this. So you have to understand, like, what's that risk tolerance for you? What makes you feel comfortable? There is no hard and fast and really right way to step away from your job, but it's all about you making, I say, a calculated risk. Be wise in all things. Wisdom should be that chief strategy and what that looks like for you before you can really say, I feel comfortable doing that. So what is it going to take for you to, keep up your lifestyle? Or maybe you make some cutbacks, right? Maybe you cancel some things so you can, work through your budget. But yeah, ultimately, what makes you feel comfortable? Don't feel like, oh, social media says everybody that's successful let it all go and just jumped out there. No. You do not have to do that. And then the second part of your question, how can you, think through the times where you're like, oh, I should go get that job? Maybe I still do that. Some days it just gets tough, but ultimately that fourth square on the front page of your worksheet, why am I equipped and gifted to do this? I have to keep going back to, who am I created to be? What am I called to do? Who am I giving an answer to? Who am I called to serve and reach? And every time I go back to that question, it reminds me I can't go back to a 9-to-5, because there's a purpose here in my business. It's not just about me making money, but I'm an answer to a problem. So I really want you to focus on the first 4 squares of that worksheet, because that'll be the thing that keeps you centered to say, I'm going to keep pressing forward. Great question. Great question. Anybody else? Got about 5 minutes. So I'm going to put somebody on the spot. Becky Bertram spoke on Tuesday at Startup Week, and her talk was all about creating a solo practice and just kind of what it takes from a character trait and integrity level to to run a successful business. So if you can just maybe kind of add to this conversation a little bit for us and give us some of those character traits and things that you talked about running a successful business.
Sure. I was on my own without a team for a good 20 years. And so a lot of it is just, if you think about things like, first of all, accountability. If a lot of us are used to being at a business where we have a manager who's setting out goals for us and saying this is what you need to accomplish, a lot of times for ourselves, it's easy to just mix together. I've got to have a meeting with someone, I've got to get the laundry done, and it's all just a spaghetti, right? And so you have to create your own accountability to be able to say, what are my strategic objectives every day? Because on the one hand, people are like, I love self-determination. I want to be able to do it all on my own. But then once it's all on you to decide what the priority is, and you don't have anybody giving that to you, sometimes that can be very difficult. So I think being able to create those structures for you, and that goes into time management as well, but I think being able to create that. And then, again, integrity is a big part of it, because you don't have somebody that's making sure that you dot your I's and cross your T's. And the truth is, you can get away with stuff and maybe customers wouldn't notice, but then things start to slip. So again, big businesses are going to have structures to make sure things are compliant and above board. But if you're doing it yourself, you really have to be willing to do that, but then to be highly motivated. And so again, I feel like, and then I think having the breadth to be able to say, I'm going to try things new. Mm-hmm. So I think exactly like David said, it's sort of a fine line between, I can't say, well, I just want to do, you can say, I'm not going to do fruits and vegetables, but if I'm focusing on vegetables, I need to do peas and carrots, right? Like, I think a lot of times our jobs are highly focused if we're at a big company and we have a very narrow job set of what we feel like we're really good at. And sometimes if you're going to land the work, you have to say, you know what, I really wanted to do X, but I'm not going to get this project if I don't include a little bit of why, and I have to push myself to do that, right? And so some people, I guess, I don't know, for what you do, it might be like, I like to do social media, but I don't like writing copy, right? Well, if you're going to get the work, someone's going to want you to do it all. So I think you have to really build your partner team. Either you say, I'm going to develop that skill in myself, or I'm going to find some people that complement it.
Yeah, so
But if you
going
have a
back to that
mindset
skills
says-
map and that skills gap, I
Yeah.
think is really what I hear you're saying in terms of where do I need to kind of maybe level up my skills a little bit as a business owner, but then where can I partner with somebody? And so I want you all to really look at that skills gap portion, because that way, like Becky said, if there's something I just completely am not good at, don't want to do, then I can have a partner I can hire out to do that. So if that's it, I think we are wrapped up for our session. I really thank you all for joining me today.
Yes, let's give Leslie a round of applause.